Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
You're on mute. Great start.
What a great start. What a great start. Welcome back, Giants fans, to the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. Yes, that is right. I am paying my dues for the loss bet with Anna last weekend. I'm going to take this off because it's tighter than anything, but I will have to sit here for the entire one with this jersey on. For a man who actually didn't really do a lot, let's be honest, was pretty disappointing, as was the game. This episode, we are 66% British, 23% Irish, but as always, 100% Giants. Dan is unfortunately working, but I am joined by Kev and by Shane to chat about this past Sunday's game. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, not too bad. It was touching for a brief moment. We wore it on Sunday. We'll get into it in a little while, but I know the group chat was a little bit of fun the weekend. What is it? What's that saying? You reap what you reward, or some shit like that.
You reap what you sow. You made your bed to lie in it.
Yeah, you made your bed, so you have to lie in it. That's what you get for trying to ruin my draft dreams. We'll have none of that.
Oh, fantastic, lads! Yeah, so. Got it to be away for the last sort of week or so. As I've been mad busy with like work and stuff like that. But back tonight again to talk all things Giants football for our sins. But I have to say, like, you're a man of your word, Craig. Fair play to you. You got the top and hat on. Some man.
Yeah. Had to be done. But there we go. Now, before we begin, if you're watching on YouTube, please do let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Obviously, subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up. We will be addressing that later, Mayo. Now, Kev, before we kind of get into the meat and drink of this episode, this is episode 201. Last week was episode 200. You missed it. But I just want to give you a couple of minutes for your highlights for the first 200 episodes, much like myself and Shane did last week. Oh, Kev's mic's now disappeared. Try again.
Oh, no, we've got technical difficulties.
How about now?
1 2 1 2.
Hey, he's back. Right.
Oh, this is what the Giants offense on the field. What the f is going on?
I will not be silenced. Who's trying to silence me? What is going on? I shall have my say. No, 200 episodes, lads. I mean, like, it felt like we sort of crept to 100 a little bit, but these last 100 has just absolutely flown by. I know, obviously, we've picked up the pace a little bit, but it's crazy to think that we're 200 episodes in. I mean, was I shared a photo there? Was it last week or the week before of just random photo of us in my bedroom and Shane in his room and Dan as well, just like from where it started. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the best things we ever did was to get Craig on this podcast, because it just felt that the four of us, the three of us, were doing brilliant and we were having the brilliant crack, and it was okay. It was grand. But I just felt like when we got Craig on, like the four of us together, Craig sort of gelled everything together and was the man behind, and it just took us to another level. And he continues to do great stuff. And to be honest, we'd be lost without him. That's enough about bigging Craig up. But like, I just love the fact that like we get to do this. And I mentioned to Craig beforehand. I kind of like, when you're having this bad season, last thing you really want to do, you could switch sports, right? I could go back and like just concentrate on Celtic. Do you mean, or the Boston Celtics or something like that? But like having this, like to come back and talk to you boys and to be able to get our frustrations out. And it is therapy sessions. I know we joke about it, but it really, really is. And we feel so much better like after it. But 200 episodes is fantastic. And I just feel that we are only starting. It really does feel like that, like, that we're starting to get into a groove, and we've had such good ideas about what to do next, and like how to develop the pod, and conversations to have in the off season and stuff like that. Because let's face it, we will have more productive and fun conversations in the off season about how this team can get back on track, because it's completely off the reels at the moment. But I mean, I could go on about the highlights. I mean, stuff that we've done, the opportunities that this podcast has given us. The highlight for me, though, I will say, was the Munich collage, or the video that Craig put together. I mean, that was just like, how do you watch that and not forget about the team being rubbish, but watch that and just love being a fan of the Giants, or a fan of a team, when you have each other. And the people we met was fantastic, and seeing that sort of gives us the drive to go on and to continue to grow the podcast, continue to find ways to make it more interesting and innovative. And I like, even though the team is absolutely shocking at the moment, 200 episodes down, I'm so looking forward to the next 200.
I was saying, I sort of rattled it off last week, but we've covered some shite over the years. Like, apart from that, the first season with Dabes, like, we've really been through the ringer on this podcast. It would be nice to cover a team that has like a really good winning season, and doesn't just like stutter. We did kind of stutter into the playoffs, didn't we? I know we won against the Vikings, but it wasn't exactly like we'd run away with it. Like, it would be nice just to have a smooth sailing kind of season where we come on here and we're just like, oh, who's player of the game? Because let's be honest, we scrapped that this year because nobody deserves it. Like, we could give you a spoiler right now. The Giant Awards, that ain't happening. that ain't happening for sure. So exactly. Right. I mean, we've got to get into the game. And what a horrible, horrible game that was to watch. You could say, oh, Mayo, what comes first? Episode 400 or 15 Giant wins? Shane won't be here for episode 400 if it's 15 Giant wins in that time. I'm telling you now.
No,
Now, I don't want to call myself Nostradamus, Mystic Meg, or Clinton Baptiste, but I did tweet out towards the end of a game that this had a certain Patriots game from last season that a certain podcast were at kind of feel to it. And I think I said the words of a turgid game that comes down to a field goal to tie it that's missed will lightning strike twice, and lo and behold, it did, because Graham Gano's field goal was blocked by rookie Brian Brisset. Now, outside of that bit of drama, it was awful. Just an awful, awful game to watch. Giants had offensive issues with drops and penalties. However, the patchwork defensive line held the Saints to 92 total rushing yards, third lowest for the season, and 292 total offensive yards, the second lowest this season. So much, much improved on the defensive side. Unfortunately, plenty of injuries on Sunday in areas that we can't afford. Guard John Runyon Jr. was heard screaming on the broadcast. You could kind of hear him on the floor early in the third quarter. He was replaced by Stinney. It's since been revealed that Runyon has an ankle sprain, will probably miss the rest of the season. JMS left the field in the fourth quarter with a neck injury, which I'm pretty sure he suffered with neck injury issues at the end of last season. Now, he was replaced by Van Roten, who had moved from guard to centre, meaning that Jake Kubas, or Macho Man Randy Savage, as he will be known from now on, was drafted into the guard position. Others that left the game during it but returned to action: Tyler Nubin, Trey Hawkins, Malik Nabers, Drew Lock. Drew Lock left for a single play, which apparently Brian Dable said was the Tommy DeVito play. I don't think anything eventful happened, so I'm not sure what was supposed to be the Tommy DeVito drawn up play that he had, but Drew Lock went out and then was back in. Now, Lock's obviously been named the starter for this weekend's game as long as he's healthy, but he went for x-rays after the game. And as we heard earlier, Trey Hawkins is now out for the rest of the season with a lumbar spine fracture. which sounds awful, but apparently it's not as bad as it kind of sounds. One positive note, though, because there's got to be some kind of positive sometimes, especially from an offensive point of view. We don't get many. Per Next Gen Stats, Malik Nabers and Tyrone Tracy Jr. are the first pair of rookies to each average more than 65 scrimmage yards per game since Reggie Bush and Marquise Colston in 2006, who ironically played for the Saints. So that is a little bit there. So if we move on to talking about offense, which is obviously mine and Kev's domain, the first thing I kind of wanted to highlight was those first half offensive struggles. I don't know what it is. We just cannot get out the gates. We don't warm up until halftime for some reason. It's just the Giant way this season. The Giants had 7 first half possessions, which is about average. It's not a lot of possessions, but again, it's we actually kept our offense out on the field for once, albeit in stop-start sort of motions. The average starting position of those 7 first half possessions was the 45-yard line. And how many points did the Giants walk away with? 3. 3 points. We had 1 field goal. That was it. So those Shane even forgot there. He was fully in on the zero burger for the first half. A breakdown of those drives. Drive 1 starts at in New Orleans territory. 7 plays, 17 yards, turnover on downs. Our 43-yard line, 3 plays, 8 yards, punt. Our 32-yard line, 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. The Giants take over on the 49, 7 plays, 26 yards, field goal. We take over in New Orleans territory again on the 48-yard line, 3 plays, 6 yards, punt. Take over at midfield again, 3 yards, 6 plays. 3 plays, 6 yards, punt. And then over on the 37-yard, 5 plays, 19 yards, punt. So that means that is 86 yards off 31 plays from scrimmage, averaging 2.8 yards a play. That is just turgid.
Can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be covered, so I have to. I feel like now might be the time. Are we addressing any fourth down stuff on offense?
Any fourth down in the terms of punt returning?
In terms of us going for it on fourth down.
No, I haven't got anything. So feel free if you want to jump in.
Fucking bullshit. Why did we go for it on 4th and 8 from the 42-yard line?
Yeah.
And then early on in the season, we've been closer with shorter yardage and we've punted. I think
we were closer during the game.
But I think it was something that Dan Duggan tweeted out. I don't know if it was on Sunday night after the game or yesterday. And then Bobby Skinner also mentioned it as well on their episode. I think it was yesterday that it dropped. And it's just something that's really starting to piss me off, to be honest, with these fourth down calls. It seems like we base it on analytics. But what the fuck's the analytics? Because the analytics is a lot of bollocks. Like, if it's some geezer who plays Madden and does what Madden CPU tells him, that's the only thing that I can think it comes down to, because I don't understand the fourth down decision making. It's fucking terrible. It's another reason why the head coach should be sacked.
It is weird. It is weird because seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. There's no obvious sort of patterns. It's like on certain fourth downs you think he should go for, he doesn't. Ones that you don't think he should go for, he does, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like, make it make sense, please, Dibs.
It's like, if you remember week 1, Dave's first season, he went for 2 for the win. It was, we're going for 2. We either lose this way or we're going to win it this way. I don't believe that Dave would make that decision at any point this season at all.
Yeah, there's definitely an air of caution sometimes to his play calling. It's interesting what you say, though. I mean, if you follow Doug Analytics on X during the game, he was kind of breaking down every single fourth down decision by Dave's. And it was weird that we are going for it on 4th and 8 as early as we are, but we're able to sort of run the ball and get those little chunk yards. And then we decide on 4th and 2, we're not going to do it. It's It's definitely a head scratcher, and amongst a million other head scratchers when it comes to Dave's play calling and the way that he's managing games at the moment. So, yeah, it's a fair point though, Shane. Absolutely.
I'll get back in my box now till defence.
So, the other thing I kind of wanted to look at, and as everyone knows, I love a stats deep dive. There's nothing I like more this season than a stats deep dive, because a lot of the time it just pisses me off. So why don't I just do it again? So a big loser from the way that the Giants offense plays is Malik Nabers. Now, during the game, it took until the first Giants drive of the second quarter to get him targeted, and he was only targeted once more before the half. In the fourth quarter, when it looked like, I don't know, Drew Lock got a bit kind of fuck it mentality, kind of a bit more loose and kind of just like what happens, happens. Nabers then gets 8 targets, 4 catches, 62 yards, the 2-point conversion that I have no idea how he has that much time to corral it in. And yeah, he kind of is able to put his stamp on the game. And if you look at his season stats, it's not the first time he struggled to get targets in the first half. So why wouldn't I create a spreadsheet and have a look at every single Malik Nabers target and reception for every single game that he's played in, which is 11 because he missed the Seahawks and Bengals game. So 11 games because I'm mental and clearly autistic in a way. So Nabers, like I said, is played in 11 of 13 games this year, missing the Seahawks and Bengals games with a concussion. In those 11 games, he's been targeted 126 times per Pro Football Reference, or 121 times if you look at PFF, which is the second highest in the league, only behind Garrett Wilson, I think, is the only person who's been targeted more. And I think it's only 5 targets more. So a lot is the word. Now, if you look at this quarter by quarter, this is where it gets a bit mental. He has 14 targets for the season in the first quarter. Just 14. He has 39 in the second quarter, 26 in the third quarter, and 47 targets in the fourth quarter, meaning that his first quarter targets of 14 are just over half of the next lowest of 26 and 30% of the highest in the fourth quarter. If you look deeper, Nabers failed to get a target in the first quarter in 3 games this season. The second matchup with the Commanders, the Bucks, and on Sunday against the Saints. Against the Commanders in the first matchup, the Browns, the first matchup with the Cowboys, the Steelers, and the Panthers, he got 1 lone target, which means that in 8 of the 11 games he's played, he has had 5 targets in the first quarter. And this is a guy, when he was being interviewed pre-draft, who turned round and said, I don't deal well when I'm not targeted early. And we're targeting him 5 times in total across 8 games. It's just mental. Now, Shane, you'll notice that Nabers' second lowest targets are the third quarter, which means the Giants struggle to get him going in the beginning of each half. Does that show that as a game goes on, the Giants get so far behind that they then realise that they have to lean on him so heavily? So it's kind of skewed his numbers in a way.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, part of me just wonder, is it us trying to like kind of get too cute and not target our first round wide receiver too often? We don't want him to have 15, 20 targets a game with, 80% plus catch succession rate. So I do think that maybe we get a little bit cute and we don't want to overuse him, but at the end of the day, it's what you drafted him for. It's not illegal, or it's not a flag to throw the ball to Malik Nabers time and time again. If they can't stop Malik Nabers, guess what? Keep fucking throwing in the ball. Simple. It ain't difficult. Football's a really simple game sometimes.
Kev, we've obviously we covered the offense for the season. We've mentioned Nabers' name a lot of times, and when you kind of look at bigger picture and you just look at stats on face value, it looks fine. But obviously, what I found there is worrying. No.
Oh, 100%. And I couldn't agree with Shane more. I think it's like it feels like Dable's trying to get too cute as going, right, they're going to expect us to throw the ball to Neighbours early, so we won't do it. And then you're chasing well, we've been chasing our tail every single game this season anyway. So then you do decide to go to your best players. I think just have a game plan to go out, get the man the ball. You've seen what he can do with the ball in his hand. You know, that one of those plays in the second half, the run after catch ability, you kind of see what he's got. So don't be afraid to get him that ball early. And like you said, the stats are skewed because overall catches, overall yards kind of looks decent. But when you break it down the way you've broken it down, there's such a disparity there. It just doesn't make sense. And it's just like, I haven't got the words for it. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. When you have a star wide receiver, get him the ball. Like Shane said, football could be a simple game. Get the ball in the best player's hands. Whether that's a good running back and a good offensive line, you run the ball. If you've got a top wide receiver that you spent the 6th round draft pick on, who's got run after the catch ability, get him the ball early and get him the ball in space.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you almost look back at some of the games that we've lost this year, and one of the sort of criticisms, especially of Daniel Jones when he was here, was that you had to get him in a rhythm before you could get going. And the easiest way to get him in a rhythm and to get the offense kind of going would be to use Malik Nabers. And then we find out that we haven't used him in the first quarter of a game in 8 different games. Like, surely that's the go-to. Like, the second it started falling apart, the game plan should have changed to feed him early and often, and let's see how this goes. Because Tyrone Tracy's playing well enough that he should be able to obviously help the run game go early. If we get him going and then Neighbours going at the same time, you've got the two-headed attack, both running and throwing the ball, but we're just ignoring our best playmaker.
What's more frustrating, like for fans, like if I said to you, right, okay, we aren't going to throw our best wide receiver the ball early, or we're throwing our best wide receiver the ball too much. Like, I know which side of the fence I'd be sitting on.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, second most targeted player in the league.
Yeah.
We just throw it to him during garbage time.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. I mean, I've spoken about garbage time yards before and how, you know, the Giants have been amazing at stat padding in the fourth quarter when they're down by 4 scores or something stupid. And it just seems like that's the way to go. They did it again against the Saints, didn't they? All of a sudden, at the end, Malik Nabers is running these amazing curl routes or comeback routes, and Drew Lock's throwing it out to him, and it's like, well, why is it taken that long? Like, are we just using him to wear down defensive backs until the fourth quarter by the point that we're almost out of sight? I mean, I know we weren't Sunday, but neither team could get anything going on Sunday. I mean, Derek Carr tried to kill himself to try and get something going.
I know, it was crazy. And I was sitting there watching the game Monday because I wasn't able to watch it live on Sunday. And like, I was looking at the clock and the score, and suddenly there's 4 minutes left in the entire game, and we've only got 3 points. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here? Like, well, that's just, you can't function as a team in the NFL if you cannot put points on the board like early in the game. I mean, like you said, like, you look at the box score and you think, okay, it was a close-ish game. You know, Giants missed it on a field goal to take it to overtime. But 4 minutes left in an entire game, that's 56 minutes of football where you've only put up 3 points. It's just not good enough.
Exactly. Kev, roundup time for you to go through the bits that I've missed.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, I was rewatching the game on Monday, and the thing is, I knew the score, so it was kind of a difficult watch. But like, let's talk about the key things. Big thing, O-line was just bad again. I mean, you talked about the injuries that came in, and you have a lot of players on rotation. It's not the starting offensive line that we herald as awesome at the beginning of the season, when for the first few games they didn't miss any snaps and they were playing well. It's a completely different O-line now. I mean, the pass blocking, like Locke was pressured on 46% of his dropbacks, despite only being blitzed 18% of the time. Like, that's crazy. I mean, he was sacked twice, hit twice, but they only gave up 17 hurries, with 9 of them being Josh Azudu's fault. You know, Evan Neal, on the other hand, had a fairly decent game with just 3 pressures. So that type of offensive line play, no one can play behind that. I mean, the run game was slightly better, but was that down to the offensive line or Tyrone Tracy showing that he's capable of being a very good running back in this league? I don't want to talk about Locke too much because he's awful. He's just not a good backup. You can't really say it's bad scouting or whatever, because he kind of showed things in Seattle, but he's just not a good player, like throwing the ball to the dirt, missing wide open people. It's just so frustrating. I mean, you talked about Malik Nabers and his stats in this game, but I mean, the other receivers graded near average or below, like in PFF. Just not good enough. But were they getting the ball? I mean, just to talk about Tyrone Tracy, he solidified himself as the number one running back, and Devin Singletary very much is just a change of pace guy. And Eric Gray, I don't know where Eric Gray is, but so there's something there in Tyrone Tracy, and he can only do what he can do. He can only do so much, behind that offensive line, and let's face it, a bit of the play calling as well. And I just want to give a shout out as well to Daniel Bellinger. There's a Daniel Bellinger sighting. 5 catches for 45 yards. Every time he's been called upon, he's kind of done his job. So why is it taking a Johnson injury for him to be sort of given snaps? And I mean, some of the catches he made as well, he was a check down, and he got the first down when he got the ball in his hands. So it's just so frustrating. Like, why hasn't he been involved more? But it just comes back to I sort of alluded to it there for a second. Watching this team at the moment, these are NFL players, right? They are, otherwise they wouldn't be on the team. But and it is a big if Shane and Dable are back next season, and Dable is the head coach, should he try and hire an offensive coordinator that he trusts enough to give the play callings to? Like, Craig, do you think being head coach and offensive coordinator, I think Keith mentioned it earlier on in the chat, do you think that dual role was too much for him? And do you think he should try and find someone that he can work with to create an offensive game plan, but hand the play calling back over to him? Because let's face it, it hasn't been successful.
No, and I think one damning thing that you could say about this is the fact that at the beginning of the season, we all said Kafka's had the play calling taken over because Dable knows he will get him fired if he doesn't improve. So he's putting matters into his own hands, and it's worse. It's been worse. And there aren't many head coaches who can do both. I mean, you look at Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen for the Saints, who was fired earlier this season, was their DC and their head coach, and he couldn't do both. And it cost him his job. It's just with Dabe's kind of not really being on the hot seat by all accounts. I mean, there are many NFL insiders who have come out and said that there are two main reasons that Dable will be back next year. One of them being the fact that him and Joe Shane have scouted pretty much every single college quarterback that is going to be available in the first few rounds and seen them multiple times, but also just because of the way that obviously they're playing and shutting down players at the moment. So it's tough, but he should. I mean, if he is here, he has to bring in an OC that means that he can concentrate on the things that he is bad at, like game management.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And Shane, to you, it kind of felt like with Kafka going, everyone's it's like a well-known secret that Kafka his contract ends this off-season, and he won't be back. And there's kind of rumblings and feelings that Shea Tierney, the quarterback's coach, who Dable brought from Buffalo, that he would be ready-made offensive coordinator. Do you think that would be a good move to promote someone like Shea Tierney, or do you think he needs to go out and get a proven OC, maybe a head coach in the past, or a proven OC to come in and call plays?
I mean, I think he should go and get a proven OC personally, but I don't think he will. I mean, it's a little bit funny when you look back at it, because at the start of the season, we were like, Dave is taking all the play calls because he knows that if this fails miserably, it's going to be on him, and it's not Kafka. And it, like crazy, it's worse. The play calling, the fourth down decision making, the targeting of Malik Nabers, or let's say the lack of targeting of Malik Nabers, the there's so much that's just wrong. And like, I personally would rather Dave's just focus on being a head coach. That's all I want you to do. I do not want you calling play. It can be your playbook. You can have your playbook and you can mesh it with another one who's experienced in calling plays. Dave's is experienced in calling plays, but he's not experienced as being a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the year has shown that he cannot do both.
So I think, Shane, you've obviously said that you don't want Dable back. Is that correct?
No, I don't want Dable back.
You want him back. So, Craig, just one quick answer, then I'll ask you a second question. Do you want Dable back?
No.
Okay.
I think that it's multifaceted. If the second question is why,
No, the second question would be like, so if I ask, so when we said at the beginning of this season, Dable's taking over play calling, and it's basically taking it over to save his job. Now, if I said to you at that time that this offense would look like this after 13 games, then would you say he has to go? Because, saying that he's play calling for his job.
yeah, of course, like he'd have to. I mean, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? I think his biggest flaws are the play calling, and then the way he comes across after the games. They're his biggest flaws, and they're the reasons that he's kind of switched me off.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, like, I was in the camp of keeping him and giving him a new OC, give him his quarterback, but I'm leaning towards now, not clean house, but do we get a new head coach in with new ideas? Because he was play calling for his job this year, and that was a massive underachievement, in my opinion.
I mean, there might be a good time to bring James. This question was sit on topic. James mentioned earlier on saying, asked this earlier in the season, and I know Dan ain't here, but where are you on Shane in or out, Abel in or out? James says he's now firmly in the both out camp.
Well, I mean, yeah, cheers, thanks. I am kind of, and this is going to be controversial a wee bit. I'm going to keep Joe Sheehan and get rid of Dable. I know people see him as a combined package or joint package or however you want to call it, but I think that Joe Sheehan has done enough in free agency, trading, and drafts to warrant a little bit of a longer leash. But I think the head coaching, from what I've seen from Dable, apart from that, let's face it, a little bit lucky overachieving to 2022, he hasn't done it for me. So I would be in a get rid of Dable, get Joe Sheehan to interview for a new head coach and a new coaching team.
I mean, I've already said about Dabes. Joe Shane, I think, is a lot more difficult because there's things he's done that have been good. There's things he's done that have been bad, but there's also things that he's done that have gone under the radar that a lot of people don't maybe appreciate in the terms of like how backwards this organization was behind the scenes when Gettleman was there. Like the modernization of the Giants has actually been very, very good, and a lot of people don't give him maybe enough credit for that. I do think that he needs to be, if let's say he stays, let's say I say Joe Shane stays, I think he needs to lean on Brandon Brown and the rest of his front office a lot more than we saw him do so in Hard Knocks, because it looked like a lot of the time he'd made a decision that they weren't happy with. Maybe they didn't challenge him enough on it, but it looked like it was kind of his way or the highway sort of thing. And that's where I would be at. But I think you'd have to be very clear with him that it's 2 years, and if there's no sort of benefit from it, then see you. And that's the danger, isn't it? Absolutely, and that's the danger, isn't it? Is the fact that if we go into this off season and we pick up a quarterback, that tandem, whoever it may be, will have 2 years minimum. And if it's Joe Shane and Brian Dable, they have 2 years, because you can't fire a head coach and a GM at the end of your first year with a rookie quarterback. I do feel like, in my opinion, Joe Shane, if one or t'other goes, Joe Shane is more likely to stay than Brian Dable. Because I think if you get rid of Joe Shane and bring in a new GM, why would that GM come in and look at Brian Dable and go, why should I keep you? Whereas I think if Dable goes and Joe Shane stays, it's quite easy for Joe to go, right, reset, bring in a brand new head coach, and I can work with him.
And like, I think I said it in a previous podcast as well. I mean, do we just have to suck it up these last couple of years, in the sense that these were two people who have never done head coaching job before or been the main man as a GM before, and they were learning their trade, and they were learning their trade with us and making mistakes with us. My worry is that I don't believe Dable going forward will have learned from his mistakes, and I believe he'll be the same. But I believe Joe Shane would have used these last couple of years as the main man and learned from his mistakes, and I believe he will improve going forward. I don't know if I can say the same about Dable.
I don't know, your opinion is buy and buy, but what's I mean, obviously you've heard our thoughts behind it. What's your kind of reasoning behind that?
So, like I said before, the number one is like, I don't want to give Shane and Dable the fair share to then, in whether you do it in 1 year or 2 years' time, say see you later, and then you're bringing in a new regime with a quarterback they didn't draft, and then we all of a sudden we've entered into this cycle again that we just can't seem to get out of. Secondly, I think it's a hard sell to a fan base to turn around and say, look, I know we've had one good year in the last 3, and it was the first year, which is more and more starting to look like a pure fluke. But just give us 2 more years. Like 5 years is a hard sell to a fan base. And this is coming from a fan base that just, stays up till 1 or 4 in the morning every now and again, let alone to a fan base that pays thousands of tickets for thousands of dollars for tickets week in, week out, and make like ridiculous journeys across America to be able to go and watch their team. I think, like I said, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think the first season was just pure luck. It was a changing of the guard, so to speak. I've not been impressed with. Yeah, exactly. I don't think Joe Shane's done anything amazing. I still stand by the fact that I expect this rookie draft class to take a step back next year. Whether that's Joe Shane's problem, whether that's a coaching problem, it is neither here or there. And I'm just starting to get pissed off with Dave's more and more each week, if I'm perfectly honest with you. The play calling, the attitude. We played Dable bingo in our group chat the other day after the game when we was like, oh, what's Dave's going to come out and say? Because he's going to turn around and say, need to check the tape, need to do better. As Kieran, I think it was quite rightly pointed out, and he won the Dable bingo. That's on me. I don't want to win on that bullshit. We've won 2 games all season. We ain't won a home game all season. You're an offensive guru, and we're averaging 10 points a game at home. What's this fucking 1940s football? It's 2024. Every other team can seem to easily put up 20 or 30 points. That's a fantastic week for us. I'm not being funny. Was it the Rams and the Bills who had the shootout on Sunday night? 40 points each. When's the last time the New York Giants put 40 points up on the scoreboard? I don't even know if it's happened in the time I've been a fan. So
I mean, you might be right, to be honest. I think you might be right.
You're going to make me cry.
Appreciate the efforts over 3 years, but thank you and goodbye for me at the end of the season for both.
I know there's the question at the bottom, and obviously we need to move on to defense at some point. But one thing that we haven't got in the sheet to talk about, but I'm just going to throw it in there because I'm in charge and it's carnage time. Shane, what are your thoughts on the plane? That we have to proceed by saying Malik Nabers did not pay for the plane. He didn't.
I mean, to be fair, there's a couple of conspiracy things out from the weekend. I mean,
have you seen the Aziz one?
A certain unknown player messaged a certain woman to commit a certain act, and that's all I'm going to say in regards to that. And then obviously we've got the plane issue. I think John Mara's probably going to be more concerned about the plane problem than the one I've just mentioned, and rightly so. But again, it goes back to the fan base. The fan base has had enough. They're so checked out. in my opinion. Yeah, you still got some fans going, but you think that's an 80,000 seat stadium, and I don't know if NFL teams are next the capacities like they do in English football, but I'd be surprised if it was even like a quarter full at half time.
$1 tickets.
I mean, that just says it all. But
did you see the jumper that Aziz was wearing to the event last night?
I don't know jumper or what event you're talking about, if I'm honest.
So he was at an event where he surprised some kids. I'm guessing it was some like holiday giveaway thing. And on his jumper, it says Planes Crew.
Nice. I mean, just a quick touch on the plane. I mean, like, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't even sway either way whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. I think it was fine to be done. I mean, all they're trying to do is get Mr. Mara to sort shit out. I mean, and whether that means sacking them, the GM and head coach, or it means giving them a massive kick up the hole and saying, this isn't good enough. I mean, Dable, you need to get your house in order in the sense of, like, you can't call plays and head coach. You can't. If you want to do that going forward, you're out, right? And you need to bring in and you need to let people know that, you know, the offensive coordinator needs to come in and you need to get a game plan and run it properly. And GM, you need to hit on this draft. Like, this quarterback, I mean, has to work. I mean, whether it might be a case of that, you know, just show that he's you know, it's his team with the Titches and he's taking no shite. So, you know, so fair play to putting the plane up. You know, I don't see any problem with it at all.
Again, no, look, I know we do need to move on, but like the point, it goes back to something I mentioned last week or the week before. Someone's heads are going to roll for this season. Now, it's not going to be Dable and O'Shea. Who's it got to be? Because there needs to be multiple heads that roll as well. You cannot bring back the same coaching, it's the same coaching staff off the back of the potential 2-16 season. You can't do it because you will lose the fan base then.
So just very quickly for you both, do you want to just answer the question at the bottom there? So where would the panel rank Joe Shane as a GM in the division as far as building a roster? And before you answer, mind your team was swept by the Cowboys.
Yeah, 4th.
I mean, you have to say so now currently, but is he still in the process of building it? Like, you know, this isn't the final roster, obviously, going forward.
But you can't use year 4 as a rebuild.
No. I think by now you have to have 90% of your roster done. I mean, I think 4th is the way. I hate to say it, but you're probably looking at what Roseman top, Commanders, Jerry Jones, and then Joe Shane.
I mean, let's be honest. In the NFC, 14th at best. You might put him ahead of the Panthers GM.
I mean, that's a great shout by Mayo, to be fair.
I mean,
it is, Jerry, but take performance of what we've had at quarterback for the last 6 years.
The thing with him, isn't it, with Jerry Jones, is the fact that you look at some of the players he has drafted in the terms of like Michael Parsons. Obviously, Overshown's been really good. CD Lamb, you know, so those. But then this is also a man who signed Ezekiel Elliott to a deal this year, and can't. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Planes Crew is a shirt in the paper planes brand, faded by Jay-Z. Don't know if you'd be wearing stuff by Jay-Z right now. Had a look it up, but yeah, I thought the same thing. There we go. So
basically, Ezekiel and Jay-Z combined for the plane. Got it.
That's too many Z's for my liking. Right, defense. Come on, Shane. We know you're itching to talk about the defense.
Yeah, it was an outstanding performance. I mean, you know, it's going to be one of the greatest defenses that's ever played NFL football, I think, if I'm honest. But, you know,
oh, God.
The 85 Bears, the 2024 New York Giants. After multiple weeks of myself and others calling for it, we finally saw some of the young depth guys, and one of them was obviously one of the best men on the field. Now, I don't know if anyone has heard, but we kind of mentioned ages ago, you want to maybe see Evan Neal at guard, see what he can do there, maybe see the likes of Darius Musa on the field, and this kid called Trey Hawkins, who apparently lit camp last year and got benched after like week 2, week 3, I think it was. And it was Trey Hawkins that made the most of his time on the field. He recorded the New York Giants' first interception since week 1, breaking that unwanted NFL record that we own. It's also the only interception by a defensive back this season. And he didn't just contribute there, though, finishing with 7 overall tackles, 5 solo, 2 stops, and a 45.8 QB rating when targeted. And as per PFF, he was our second highest graded defensive player. So, again, this is another thing that kind of begs the questions to what's been going on with the coaching. Like, if we've been calling it from across the pond, some Brits that don't really know much about the sport, why is it took someone who watches this player week in, week out so long to put him in? So that's one of the annoying things as well that we'll fall that under one to talk about at a later date. In regards to Michael McFadden, he was another one that shone. Obviously, Bobby Okereke is out and he took charge. Covered every blade of grass, finishing with a team leading 11 overall tackles, 8 of which were solo and 6 stops. And importantly for me, one of the things that we've kind of moaned about is in terms of missed tackles. And McFadden only had the 1 missed tackle, which is good to see. McFadden believe he's going to be a free agent this year. Do you look at replacing him? Do you look at bringing him back? I'd have no problems bringing him back as long as it's for the right cost. Our post by sack rate is also over. Thibodeau and Burns both picked up 1 each. Thibodeau was actually the highest ranked New York Giants on defense this week. And the two of them combined for a total of 8 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and 4 hurries. And in regards to Brian Burns, for the season, he is second on the team in sacks with 7 and tied second with Bobby Okereke in terms of defensive stops with 35. He does also lead the Giants in tackles for losses with 12. Passes batted down at 8 and overall pressures at 47. And then I think it's important that we do give a shout out to the youngsters on the interior defensive line. Elijah Chapman, probably the first time we spoke about him since that Cleveland Browns victory where he kind of, you had high hopes for him as an undrafted free agent and what he could potentially do. He turned up, and also Jordan Riley. They may have taken the fair share of snaps, but it was Elijah Garcia, Corey Durden and Casey Rogers contributed as well throughout the game. Between the 5, they held the Saints rushers to 2.8 yards per carry, and they had a combined 6 solo tackles, 8 assisted tackles, and 5 stops. So, obviously, we've spoken about quite a few young guys there. Why do you think that the younger players were able to shut down the Saints' rushing attack where the established players have kind of struggled in previous games, Kev?
I think the players you just talked about are hungry. I think that they come in, they're fighting for roster spots. These aren't guaranteed. These are back end of the roster type players, your practice squad players that have been elevated, and they're actually hungry. And I think like some of the players who have their contracts settled and they're basically checked out and moving on to next year, whereas these guys have come in and they're fighting tooth and nail to be able to show things on tape that will get them into maybe, if not the Giants, another team next year.
Yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed that there, Kev, is in the fact of like they are hungry, like they have much more to prove. I think for an established player, it's very difficult to motivate yourself when you know that it's kind of like, okay, let's just reset, we go again next year, I'm still being paid sort of thing. Whereas for these guys, like you said, it's an audition as much as it is anything else for them. They really need to show up, they need to show that they care. And it was fantastic. I mean, I remember hearing all 5 of them get mentioned during the game on defense, and all for reasons that were good. I mean, Kamara had the chance to go over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career, and we just battered him. The amount of times that they gave Kamara the ball, and all of a sudden he's got 2 or 3 players pile driving him into the floor about 3-4 yards behind the line of scrimmage was incredible. And it wasn't just kind of like it took some time to settle. Like from minute dot, they were on it and they were all over them. So yeah, massive props to that defensive front, because we thought it would be a bloodbath. And actually, it kind of gives you a little bit of hope for Sunday. But then again, that's a very different kind of attack we're going to be going up against Sunday. Now, just quickly before we move on to special teams, where I know that there's a big talking point, and we will cover it, I promise you. The Giants have just made a load of roster moves. We're kind of just going to quickly go through them. Kev, you probably haven't seen this. I think Shane had a quick look. So we've added 2 veterans to the practice squad in quarterback Tim Boyle and defensive lineman Ross Blacklock. We've added 2 cornerbacks to the practice squad in Azizi Hearn and Eko Boyedo. Jimmy Morrissey, the centre on the practice squad, is now injured, so he's been moved onto practice squad injured. Trey Hawkins has now gone onto IR with his lumbar fracture, and Greg Stroman has been signed from the practice squad to the main roster. So that's a lot of moves though to drop on a Tuesday, like a lot. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Ross Blacklock, Iko Boye-Doe, and Azizi Hearn there, and anything, because I've got nothing.
I mean, Ross Blacklock was an interior defensive lineman. I think, like me and Shane liked him a couple of years ago. Come on, maybe TC or something like that. Drafted quite high. You know, he could have something there. But the other guys, I wouldn't know too much about them. I mean, so some roster moves are just general. I mean, fair play to Stroman. Actually, I thought Stroman had some nice plays on the defense when he played Sunday. So, good to see him getting up to the main roster.
Yeah, I like the Blacklock move, and other than that, it's easy like a Sunday morning.
We've now got Aziz and Azizi. Isn't that? No, I'm not going to get into the fact that Azizi is a restaurant in the UK. I'm just confuse all our American listeners. Apologies. Right.
Oh yeah.
It's time to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it is.
First of all, you need to share something on your screen, like some order that you might have made recently.
No, because it didn't count.
What didn't count? Terms and conditions.
We didn't sign a contract, and you were the one who came up with it, and you just said he had to return a punt for a touchdown.
Which he did.
No, he didn't, because it didn't count. It's not a touchdown. The play gets nullified. The play gets nullified. Post rules. No.
We'll put it to a poll. We'll put a poll on Twitter, and we'll.
You'll spin that poll. You'll start contacting.
What is this? I mute that comment. I am a man of honesty and integrity.
Shane, it would not surprise me if you did the Hop Tour bloody Bitcoin controversy and started insider trading.
No idea what you're referring to.
So what did happen, lads? I didn't watch the game live.
Well, come on, Craig. Hang on.
So Smith Marshall's touchdown
I want to get comfy.
Was chalked off because of the player that Kev has just
praised.
Just said nice things about, Greg Stroman. If Greg Stroman wants to buy me a Smith Marset jersey, he can buy me a Smith Marset jersey.
I think you need to buy a Greg Stroman jersey.
Yeah.
Smith Marset has to return a punt for a touchdown, which he did. We didn't say they had to count. It happened. We
need to check the tape.
There's no. Did he return it? Did it go back for a touchdown? Yes. We never specified anything in terms of, flags and all this kind of stuff. Like, it happened.
The play is nullified by the NFL's rules. The play doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
But luckily for us, we're not delegated by the NFL rules. We have the Big Blue UK and Ireland rules.
We're delegated by Shane's rules, is what we're saying.
I'm a man of the people. I don't want to give the people what they want. But the people are asking for it. Get the shirt. Get the shirt. Get the, they chanted it.
That was the most solo chant I've ever heard.
Everyone at home was chanting along with me. I know it. I could hear it.
Greg Stroman robbed me the chance of buying a Smith Marset jersey.
Tell you what, yeah. I'll be fair. I ain't going to get involved. We'll leave it to the host when he returns.
Well, yeah, the host who was saying he will be buying it.
He's the host. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to get involved.
I would say to you, Shane, what are you more upset about? The fact that he cost us 7 points, or the fact it's cost the jersey?
Because we could have won that game if that was actually went down in the books.
Yeah, Shane doesn't want to win games.
Jersey,
that's what I mean.
We'd have found another way to choke it. If that touchdown counted, everything changes like a butterfly effect.
As Mayo says, so many bad calls against us. This is another one, and it's broken hearts. It's broken hearts. What can I say?
Look, I'm with you, Shane. Get the shirt. Get the shirt. All chanting at home, Craig.
I like the way that you're bringing up the comments that work for your narrative, but not the history books won't show a return touchdown.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Steve's too busy watching the Villa game and cheering him on with his Villa shirt on. So he's had a few beers whilst he's watching Villa. Boom, I'm choosing more. You go against me.
She's taking shots at everyone tonight.
So you get a steel chair. You get a steel chair. See what happens when Dan on the episode just turn into
Steve is not happy.
I think the word you're looking for is A.
There we go. I think James has got the right point there. Get it off Timu. I'll get the shirt off Timu.
Just get the shirt. That's what the people want. We're a part of the people. Look, 65-yard punt returned by 87 for a touchdown.
What's the rest of the play say, though?
Potato tartar.
I think we need to put this to a poll.
Agreed.
Right, now that's out of the way. It wasn't the only special teams penalty that cost us points during the game, because 3 points were taken off because Jake Kubas power slammed a defender. What do you guys make of that? Was that unnecessary roughness, or was it just a kind of tackle? Because we saw Brian Brise obviously jump over to block the field goal at the end. So if he was just jumping over the pile again, and Kubas has just caught him, and the momentum's taken him British Bulldog style into a beautiful power slam into the turf, is that not Brian Brise's fault?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. As you know, I'm a big J. Kubas fan. I want to see him, get more plays on this team. I mean, if it was a normal offensive line, and he picked the guy up and drilled him into the ground, you'd be saying, "What a fantastic pancake!"
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And as Mayo says, the next play, roughing the kicker's called. Was roughing the kicker, but they called running into the kicker instead.
Yeah.
Outside of that, go on.
No, we just don't get the rub of the green, like those things that kind of like sway in other people's ways. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Not for this New York Football Giants. We don't get calls our way.
No, unfortunately, we're not Chiefs.
Quick question for the Smith Marset punt touchdown.
For God's sake.
No, this is something I've not asked Craig. What was your reaction at the time when it happened?
I think I just turned to Anna and I went, I can't believe it. I've got to buy his jersey.
Can I make one request?
Go on.
Can I make one request? Every time the Smith Marset is back there to catch the ball, can we get Anna just a video, your reaction from when the ball's kicked to when the play is dead, please? Just in case she gets that sweet moment, he actually returns one, and you have to get the jersey.
I
Do you
can't
really
wait till
think
he
he's
gets a
going to?
contract extension.
You can't what?
I can't wait till he gets a contract extension.
Well, it's definitely going into next year.
Well, Gunner might be back next year. I mean, is he only under a 1-year contract? I can't remember if we had a 1 or 2-year on Gunner. Anyway, obviously we had the blocked Gano field goal at the end of the game that condemned the Giants to an 8th straight loss. Outside of that, Gillen had a solid game. He might have only averaged 37.4 yards a punt on his 8 punts, but he did pin them inside the 24 times. And the Giants were able to block a 60-yard Blake Groupie field goal. So, some good and some bad from the special teams. Right. God, I feel all worked up. It's bad enough that I'm having to wear this jersey for the entire 30. And this is a medium. This is a medium. The air is being
Snug.
restricted. Yeah, it is snug. And I won't be able to wear this afterwards.
Would you rather that jersey or a Smith Marset jersey?
Oh, Smith Marset jersey because it's a Giants jersey.
But, and I'm just saying, let's just remind ourselves why Craig's wearing that jersey. Who was stupid enough for the Giants to win?
God, can you imagine? I would have had a twofer. No, I could have lost 2 bets in one day.
I would love to see you in a half and half jersey.
Oh God, no, it makes me feel sick. Not like that person in Munich with the Panthers. What was it? The Panthers Giants half and half with Munich on the back. Filth. Absolute filth. I'm half tempted to end the episode and not let Shane have his fun. After all the bullying that's
I've had
happened.
fun tonight, believe me. It's what these therapy sessions are all about.
Yeah.
Oh, well then, it's tankathon time.
It is tankathon time. Tank train. Oh, that's the wrong graphic. Oh, yeah. But don't worry, DJ, hit that track.
Boom boom. Do 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 do. Boom boom. Do 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 do. Boom boom.
There we go. I know some people have got that set as their ringtone. Fair play, fair play. Well, yeah, looking at the week 13 results, this is what the current order stands. The Raiders, they've now lost 9 on the bounce. They've gone up 1 spot and have the number 1 overall pick. Right behind them are your New York Football Giants, who've now lost 8 in a row. They've moved up 1 spot. The moving up 1 spot continues as Patriots have gone up to number 3, and also Carolina Panthers even going up to number 4. Jacksonville Jaguars, that's a typo. They're not good now 6 places. My bad. They are at number 5 with their victory. Titans and the Jets, they just keep swapping places every week. I think it's the 3rd week in a row they've now swapped places. The Browns and the Saints at 8 and 10 respectively don't move anywhere. And we do have a new entrant into the Tankathon top 10 this week with the Chicago Bears, who've now lost 7 in a row. They currently hold the number 9 draft pick. And as you can see there in the middle of your screen, 135 days to go till the NFL draft. Who makes that draft pick? Joe Shane or a future GM? Hopefully we'll find out soon. You're on mute.
Just quickly before we kind of go into the college bit. James has said someone posted earlier on Twitter that there's still the number 1 picked up somehow. The Tankathon ratings are weighted based on strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. So the Raiders have the tougher schedule that is weighted. However, the Giants, by the way that the NFL works out picks, are the current number 1 in the waiver wire, which would also mean that if the season was to end today, the Giants would have the number 1 overall pick because of the way that the NFL uses their ranking system. The Tankathon one is weighted on strength of schedule to kind of give you an inkling as to how it should go for the rest of the season, in the fact that the Raiders have the harder strength of schedule. They should end up with the number 1 overall pick, but that's not how it will actually happen. And until we hit zeros at the end of the last respective games for us and the Raiders in week 18, nothing's guaranteed, really. that's when we will get the official. But yeah, we are the official number one pick at the moment.
And just a quick, his easiest strength to schedule is first as well, because the teams you played were supposed to be easy, and you lost to them because you're bum.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it was also interesting that Mayo said, if we would have won, we would have dropped to 8. That's how bad a lot of these teams have been this year.
So we are not the only franchise that is absolutely awful at the moment.
No, we are not. There are plenty of them out there. Some much worse than others. Last week, Shane, did the college players to watch during championship weekend, how did they get on?
Yeah, so I mean, we didn't really want to talk about college football, did we, on the weekend? But yeah, we got Ashton Genty for the Boise State and Tyler Warren for Penn State on the offensive side of the ball. Genty, again, another ridiculous game. 32 carries, 209 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. He had one touchdown, with his longest one being of 75 yards. In terms of Tyler Warren, he had a good game, probably just not the kind of game he would have hoped to have had compared to some of the ones he had previously. He had 7 catches on 12 targets for 84 yards. 12 yards for reception, and 35 yards were after the catch. He had 0 touchdowns. So obviously, both players had good showings. I believe Warren led the Nittany Lions in terms of receiving yards, which is kind of unsurprising. He's the only weapon they've kind of really had. And Genty, kind of shown why he's one of the 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy for this season. Kev, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add on either of them players at all.
Yeah, just both class players, and first round talents. You're going to see their names called very, very early. I mean, Gentry, he's up there for the Heisman for good reason. In my opinion, he's had the best college season this year. So that's one of the reasons why he should win the Heisman. Obviously, other players might be better players, but I think he's been phenomenal. And Warren just impresses me every week. The more I watch him, the more I really, really like him. And yeah, just 2 really good offensive players that can be difference makers in the NFL.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, I chose Jalen Walker of the Georgia Bulldogs. They faced Texas the past weekend. Yeah, it was Texas. 5 pressures, 1 sack, 1 quarterback hit, 3 hurries and 2 tackles. Now, Jalen Walker's a little bit of a weird one. I'll get Kev's thoughts on him in a minute, but it's kind of going to be interesting to see where he plays at the next level. Some kind of see him as an off-the-ball linebacker, and other people see him more as an edge guy. And he does a bit of both, to be honest with you, with Georgia. And then kind of a player who I'm getting a really soft spot, Derek Harmon, the Oregon Ducks. Kev, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on either of them players in particular. Walker, if you see him more as a linebacker or an edge kind of guy. Mute.
Sorry, whoa. I see him as a defensive weapon, to be honest. He's the type of player that, you give a defensive coordinator and he will just make work. He can play off ball, he can play in coverage, he can rush off the edge, like you said. He's kind of that piece that kind of reminds me a little bit of Micah Parsons from back in the day when people weren't sure if he was an off-ball linebacker or a pass rusher. He kind of turned into a pass rusher. But with Walker, wherever you play him, he's going to be productive. And I haven't watched too much of the Oregon defense yet, so I can't really talk about the other player.
Yeah, an interesting comp for Walker could potentially be Abdul Carter from Penn State. He's another one who he played linebacker last year. He's played this year, and he's kind of meant to be one of the.
He's edge, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an edge player, but he's got that experience of playing off the ball linebacker and also playing edge. For some people, he is down as edge 1 for this coming draft.
So, just while we're on the topic of college football, what are your guys' thoughts on the playoff bracket at the moment? Because obviously, Kev has some things to say about Notre Dame.
Right. How long have we got, lads? No, I'm joking. Right, okay. No, I must say I've calmed down now. I've calmed down a wee bit now, but because I thought Notre Dame came in at 7 in the bracket, 5th overall, 7th in the bracket, but I thought they should have been ahead of Penn State throughout the duration of the season, especially when the committee started to get together. But to be honest, if they were ahead of Notre Dame before this final weekend, then they probably should have stayed ahead of them, even with that loss in the Big Ten Championship. Because I thought to go toe-to-toe with Oregon the way they did and to run the ball on Oregon and stay and put up that many points, I have to say fair play to them. And I'm kind of glad that the committee didn't hammer them for losing in a championship game, because to be honest, the way they lost, you kind of have to say fair play. But it's opened up some really interesting matchups, and this 12-team playoffs, I'm really excited for it. I mean, we've got Notre Dame's got an in-state game against 11 seed Indiana, which should be interesting. That'd be the first game. That's the Friday night game live on Sky Sports at 1 a.m. in the morning on Friday the 20th. The first game of the college playoffs. So and they've got a home game advantage as well, South Bend. So it will be amazing, and I'm just looking forward to seeing this college playoffs, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about your record or strength of schedule or who beat who and who's got better wins, better losses, and all that carry on. Because at the end of the day, now you're in the final 12. Now you're in the playoffs. So it's quite simple. Go out there and prove it on the field that you're the better team than the team you're playing against.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, and with playoff football in any sport, it's one game at the end of the day. Penn State were unlucky against Oregon in terms of no one really expected them to do kind of as well as they did. And, you look at Penn State, and the thing that they're missing, and it's the thing they've been missing for a while, is that elite wide receiver. They don't have anything in terms of wide receivers. The only weapon they've got is Tyler Warren or, Nick Singleton. But, obviously, we need to get past SMU first, but I do quite like the idea of seeing Penn State and Boise State go against each other. You could have two elite teams that can really run the ball. It's going to be, a case of the best defense on the day is going to win that. But it's going to be, just like I say, it's playoff football at the end of the day. It's one game, it's one shot. This is kind of where it really matters now. Penn State lost a couple of games, not the game. Florida State lost several games.
Pure dirt.
No, but the point I'm making is you can kind of lose games and still playoffs. Now you're in the playoffs, you can't afford to lose. This is kind of where it counts, and you need to show now that you belong. Yeah,
big time. And just to add to that, I mean, like before, it was always a case of like when it was the BCS and it was only two teams voted on. You voted for the two best teams. If you lost the game, you're out. Pretty much, you had to go undefeated. Whereas now, you can take a loss, but you can show that, all right, that was us on a bad day. But then you can run the table. I mean, Notre Dame lost in the second week. They beat Texas A&M the first week, and they lost the second weeks to Northern Illinois. Is Northern Illinois?
Yeah, the ones that you paid $2 million to play.
Oh, mate, don't painful like. But and that shocked us. But then we came back and we railroaded every other team. Like, we completely outscored every other team that we played to show, we are a good team, and that was a blip. I mean, I love the fact now that Notre Dame plays at home against Indiana. If we win that game, we have Georgia in a bye at a neutral site stadium, and then the Penn State, if they get past, who are you playing first?
SMU.
So yeah, sorry, SMU, and then Boise State's fantastic. Now, if Notre Dame can get past Indiana and Georgia, then you got the semifinal of Penn State and Notre Dame, and that'd be like fantastic. And that looks like someone will be playing Oregon in the final. I mean, there's just so many good matchups in this playoff, and I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, and in 2 years' time, it's moving to 14. I've heard as well, so that'll be even more interesting. Then who gets the buys, and yeah, it's throwing up some really good matchups.
If you had to choose one team now who you think will win it at the end, who would your pick be? Do it as a now. Who's your pick now?
I don't think I can look past Oregon right now, in all honesty. And the reason I don't think they're the best football team. I think Texas are probably the best team for me, but their quarterback is shit. It's the same with George. I don't rate that. I think Gabriel is a better quarterback than the other two, and that's going to be the key position. So I think for me, I'd have to go. I'd have to go for Oregon. In all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but it's so open in my opinion. I mean, there's so many teams that I genuinely believe can go and win this on any given day, and that's what's so intriguing. And Sky Sports have got the whole lot, so we can watch every single playoff game, which is phenomenal.
Right, so before we wrap up, Shane, James has asked the question. He's not watched any of Penn State, so can't comment, but he's heard Allard likened to Josh Allen coming out of college. Could Joe Shane and Dable see him as Allen V2 if they stay?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where the comps are coming from, but I will say I think Drew Allen should stay. I don't think he should declare for the draft. I think if he was to declare for the draft, he's a day 2 pick, unless he kind of gets the Josh Allen hype going into Senior Bowl and the combine, and then the private workouts, which always happens. Let's be perfectly honest with you. But I think in terms of his talent right now, he's a day 2 pick for me. I would 100% be saying, you know what, Drew, go back, because if you go back and you have a good year, if Penn State can get a couple of good weapons, might bring someone in on the transfer portal, you could easily see yourself being, the top quarterback in the draft class next year, because everyone's talking about Archie Manning. Archie Manning's going to stay in school. The Mannings have already come out and said that they plan on Archie staying for his full duration. So, people are saying the 2026 draft class is much better than 2025. Number one, you don't know that because you ain't got a crystal ball. And number two, a lot of that has been based on Archie Manning coming out, which I don't believe will happen. So I think what Drew needs to do, I can see the Josh Allen comparisons. He's improved massively on last year, and I think that's a lot down to the new offensive coordinator we brought in this year. But he should, in my opinion, return back, solidify himself as a first-round pick, and then declare for next year's draft.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think with NIL as well, it's a lot easier and more beneficial for quarterbacks or players to go back to school, because you can earn money. You can earn money now, so you don't need to go for that payday. And I think there's a few tweaks to his game that he needs to make. I think there's something there. So why not go back, work it under the same offense, and build your sort of repertoire and build your CV at Penn State. And then next year, I think if he makes the right adjustments, I think he's easily a first-round pick next year.
Well, there we go. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for tonight. We will be back on Thursday night as we preview a game that I have dubbed an ass-whooping, as the Giants welcome the Ravens to MetLife. The spread for that game is currently 14.5. Shane, anything you want to add before we go?
Did you say in our chat earlier on, is that the biggest spread the Giants have been in? How long was it?
It's the biggest spread they've faced since the 90s, I think. I think it was the 90s. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. But now, been good having Kev back on, because I know he couldn't get on last week. I enjoy talking college stuff with Kevin. We've got plenty of that content coming, because let's face facts, we've got jack all else to get excited about, have we? But it's been a good episode. And one thing I'll wrap it up with, Kev, we had a question last week. Who would you rather be stuck on a desert island with out of the pod?
Oh, that is interesting.
Is that interesting? He's gone, nah, but I ain't answering that. Is he froze for me?
I'm trying to hold. I was trying to hold so still there.
I thought you were. It was like, if I'm silent, they won't notice.
Oh, I thought I pulled it off there, but I just couldn't stop giggling. That is interesting. I mean, I should have to think about that. But what did you guys say? Stalling tactics.
Craig picked Dan, because obviously they've known each other a while. And then I picked you, because I was like, well, Kev's optimistic, so then I'll be saying, oh, that's what we're fucking going to do. So I'll be like, no, there'll be a boat coming soon. We'll be fine. I was like, I can cope with that optimism.
Well, to be honest, it's a tough one, but I'm a bit of a lazy fecker, so I need someone like Shane to be the hunter and gatherer. and to build our hut, our man hut together.
Set all these traps up for these animals, and we can skin them and everything. No offense if anyone's a vegetarian.
There you go. That's my answer. Shane.
There's some absolute shade in the comments here saying that Kev should have ended the pod there.
They've removed the button. They've taken the button off me because I'm not trusted.
I mean, we'll end the pod there because we're not going to go into the next question about what the island potentially could be.
Yeah. Which, by the way, it's a real show, Shane.
What do you mean? It's a real show?
Do you know the tagline that was said last week? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real show.
How do you know this?
Because
you one of these freaks that likes to watch it? Is that what you're saying?
No. So I saw a comment where someone said it's an actual show. So I did have a look at it, and I found a poster, and I was gonna tweet out a poster of me and you on it, but yeah, I couldn't find it. Wait,
yeah,
from the neck up.
Like I said, we're going to end the pod there.
You've piqued my curiosity.
Last set jersey to make a sale for the boat.
Oh yeah, the Smith Marset jersey you got to buy because you got a punt touchdown. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. As always, remember to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube for more carnage. You can also hit the bell to be notified of when we are live so you don't miss out on said carnage. If you aren't already, follow us on the socials at the bottom in the description down below. We are obviously now on Blue Sky as well, so you can check us out there. My thanks go to Kev and to Shane, kind of, for joining me tonight. To all of you watching or listening, we are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.